So we're in this series called Identity Theft. So if you're online, first time with us, or maybe you wandered in person, first time with us, we're in this series. Pastor Jeffrey will be concluding it next Sunday, but it's been an incredible series. I've loved it, and I've been reminded again and again of this one truth. I'm going to ask you to repeat right now. I've been designed by God. Can you say that to your neighbor? Yeah, that means you were created on purpose. We've been saying it this way: you're created on purpose for a purpose. God's designed you, and He's designed me. And today, what I want to share with you in just a little bit is just the one word that He uses to make a change in our life. So we've been walking out this pathway. You've been walking out this journey of your life for however many years. And for some of you, you're a brand new follower of Jesus, so that journey has just begun. Isn't it incredible that over the last couple of weeks, 20 people have made a decision to follow Jesus? Give the Lord a hand for that one right there. Amen. And maybe that's you, and so you've just started. You're discovering why you were designed. You're discovering your purpose. And so there's this bottom line up front, this bluff. And so let me just share with you the three things that we've been anchoring this series on. We find our true identity and our greatest purpose in our divine design. So when you say, I'm designed by God, what you are declaring is I have purpose and I have value to the one who created me, and He's called me to live out my life for Him. Number two, the Bible. Everybody say Bible. Yeah, Bible is our filter and our final word for defining not just who we are, but whose we are. It's the Bible. It's not what you hear on social media. It's not what you learned in the office. It's the Bible that tells us not who we are, but whose we are. And we anchor our identity in Christ and His words by listening, thinking, believing, and living the truth. So the more that we find ourselves thinking about, living in, believing the truth of the Word of God, the more we discover our purpose. So here's the bottom line. Our pathway to purpose is God designed. Now, you see a QR code on the screen in front of you, and if you want to scan that QR code, all the notes, the things you see on the screen, the notes, thoughts, and quotes, you can have downloaded to you, so you don't have to worry about catching up and so on. You can just scan that code. It'll be up there all morning. Our pathway to purpose is God designed. It's planned by God. He directs our steps. Our pathway to purpose depends upon whose we are. We are His. We've been designed by Him. He directs our steps. Now, there's an enemy out there. Do you know that? There's an enemy who is doing everything he can to interrupt the purpose of God in your life. Now, he does so in really interesting ways. I mean, it would be one thing if like there was a notice in your life, or you got a text on your phone, I'm the enemy and I'm here to do this. Right, that'd be cool. Then we would know. But he does in such insidious ways. Like sometimes he brings in comparison. You're like, well, I'm not like that person. Or I can't do this, or I can't do this. Or all of a sudden you begin to feel a little bit less than who you are. The enemy kind of finds that spot in your life. And that's how he works. But he attempts to steal our identity and to thwart the purposes of God. If he can get you to think and believe you're not whose you are, then he begins to win that battle. And what we're wanting to say is like, that's not whose you are. You have a purpose in life. You've been divinely created. Now, culture likes to tell us that our purpose is defined by a number of things. Pastor Mario shared it again last week. By our appearance. So if you look such way, then you've got it made in life. Man, you can live out a purpose, right? Affluence, access, acclaim, or accumulation. Man, we can just look at what you've accumulated in life. Well, then that's how culture would define success and a person really finding their purpose. But we need to go to what the Bible says. Yes? Amen. So let's turn to the Bible. Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10. For we are His what? Workmanship. Say created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. That's our journey. That's our pathway. We were created. We are His workmanship for good works. Now, I want to say here, and I know that we understand this, but sometimes I think some of us struggle with it. We understand that what Paul is saying is that salvation is by grace alone. Amen. It's not through works. Right. But works follow salvation. We live out this life that he has called us into. So where salvation is by grace, the result of salvation, the result of brand new life, the result of faith in Jesus is seen in our works. It's a picture of living out our purpose each and every day, whether it's in your workplace, wherever you go. As we walk in this pathway that Jesus has laid out for us, that God's laid out for us, we're living in our purpose. Now, each one of us has been molded, crafted, and divinely designed with skill and purpose. So Paul uses the word created. So you've been molded, and you've been crafted, you've been created. It was Dr. Seuss who said, there's no one youer than... How's it go? You or than you, or whatever. It was something brilliant. It's not biblical. It's not the Bible. Paul says, God created us, okay? But we've been molded and crafted and divinely designed with skill and purpose. Each one of us. The enemy comes along and tries to steal that away from you and from me. Now, the Bible speaks of God as the potter and man as the clay. In Romans chapter 9, in the section speaking of the sovereignty of God, Paul presents this question in verse number 20. He says, will what is molded, that's you and that's me, will what is molded say to its molder, that's who? God, why have you made me like this? I don't know if you've ever asked that question. Well, probably lots of us have, and some of us will admit it, and some of us may not. But God, why did you do this? That's the mold that's saying to the molder, God, you made a mistake here. God, you missed something when you called me to live out this purpose. Why have you made me this like? Has the potter no right over the clay? Meaning God divinely designed you just as you are. Yet so often, this question gets popped into our mind, and the enemy's not going to send you a text that I'm going to have you question your identity, but he does so. Sometimes it's in the form of that question, God, why? Or maybe it says what is it that you called me to do? There's nothing I'm capable of doing. We'll talk about that in just a moment. John Climacus, who was a monk, he's an old dead guy, so he lived in the 600s, so that's how dead he is. He said this, one of my favorite quotes, one of his devotional books, man must employ every means to lift his clay and place it upon the throne. Man must employ every means to lift his clay and place it upon the throne. Man must do everything he can to lift who we are to God and say, mold me, make me. It's not a one-time event okay, God, you did it. I think it's daily, each and every day. God, what is it you would have me do today? How can you mold me? How can you craft me so I can live out your purpose? It's a daily process. Here's what we're saying. God, I know you have created me. Now continue to mold me into the person you desire so that I can live out the purpose you have designed for me in every circumstance. That means the circumstances and the challenges that you may be facing right now, God, mold me so I can live out your purpose in this pathway, this journey that I'm walking right now. But let's be honest. How many of us like to be in control of our journey? Lots of us, online, we're raising our hands, right? What does our pathway to purpose look like? Let me kind of illustrate it this way and see where you fall in. I think generally speaking, we're going to fall into 1-3 categories. So think of it this way. You're going to go from point A to point B. You're going to go from here to Tacoma, okay? Point A to point B. And I'm going to define three different people here that I think represent us. They're the freeway people. Like if you're going to go from here to Tacoma, you're going to have the shortest route to the freeway and the fastest and straightest route there. I'll come back to that. There's some of you that like the more difficult, challenging ways, right? You're not going to use an app to show you the way. You're going to go uphill and you're going to find the most difficult way because that's who you are. You just like a challenge in life. And then there's the scenic people. So if I can avoid a freeway, my team will tell you, like, don't let Tom drive. Because like if we're going to go to Cross Point, our campus there, he is not going to take the freeway. We're going to have to go through Silverdale. We're going to have to go around every roundabout there is. We might stop for coffee along the way. Right, Mario? Right? Well, I mean, like, that's the scenic route. Okay, so we're the freeway people, right? You like it straight, fast, and you're going to get there. What? Okay? How about, like, you, the challenge people? You like a little bit of challenge in life. Anyone there? How about the scenic people? Yay, big amen. Okay, so don't you wish that when it comes to this pathway called life, or this journey called life, you could choose? Don't you wish you could say no to this and yes to this? Don't you wish that each and every day you could wake up and go, okay, this is what my life is going to look like today, and you would never have to think about it changing? But that's not the way life is it? It's not what it looks like for you and for me, yet God calls us to walk out this journey in a way that reflects who he is. It's called purpose in life. So when we commit our lives to Christ, he uses our story and our pathway to accomplish his purpose. And guess what? He uses all of our stories and even the parts where we feel we're not qualified or valuable. He uses every part of our story. Simply put, God has a plan for your life, and he has a plan for my life, but it requires one thing, and I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the one word that it requires, and when we say it, you're going to go, wow. Let's practice it. Wow. 9 o'clock, actually, they didn't do so well on this. Don't tell me. Wow, okay. Walking out this journey, this life of purpose, requires us to say yes. Wow. Thank you. Yes. That's it. It's one word. It's saying yes. My response to the grace and mercy of God is to say yes. God, here's the journey. Here's the pathway. Here's the next step. The response by me and the response by you is yes. And so the question is what next step is God asking you to say yes to on this journey that we call life? Now you go like, what are you talking about? Well, we have authors in the church. For some of you, go like, you've been feeling this urging, right? I'm going to write my first book or a book. But I've been holding back because I'm just not sure I can do it. Yes. For some of you, it's your neighbor at work and maybe a cubicle or the desk or the office next to you, and you have sensed this urging to maybe share your gospel story, but you've held back. The response that God calls us to is just yes, yes, God, I'll do that if you make a way. It's talking to our neighbor. It's living out God's purposes in life. And honestly, some of you are there. Some of you are right on target, and you just keep putting that one foot in front of the other, taking that next step. You have faced challenges in life, but yet you understand God's call on your life. And you can relate to the psalmist in Psalm 73, verse 2. But as for me, my feet, they almost stumbled, and my steps had nearly slipped. It was God who kept me strong. And you've experienced that. For many others, we're going to step back onto this path and into his purpose for the very, very first time. Maybe you're for the first time going to go, yes, Lord, and I'm listening to your voice, what you're calling me to do. Some are discouraged because that next step was only a half a step. That's all you could get. But I just want to encourage you, when you took that half step, you're not where you used to be. When you took this step, you're not where you used to be. You're back. That's back there. And sometimes that's life. It's half steps and it's next steps as we live out this purpose for God. And all of a sudden we go like, that's where I used to be, but look where I am now. We're on this journey. We're on this pathway. We keep moving forward, living out God's purposes in our life. And we're going to look at two Bible stories. And if you've been in the Bible for a while, you probably recognize the names. If you're brand new to the Bible, maybe they'll be new to you. I don't know, but they're founded on two declarations based on this truth. Here it is. My pathway may not be known to me, but it's known by God. So your journey, you may not know, and we don't know what the next hour looks like. The rest of today looks like. We don't know what we're going to face tomorrow. It's not known by us, but it's known by God. And that should give us confidence because he knows, he directs our path. So here are two. God knows my path and God directs my path. Can you say it with me? God knows my path and God directs my path. Before you got there, he knew there. Before that challenge came up in your life or that thing that the enemy tried to bring into, God already knew about it. But as we trust him, he directs us on this journey as we live out our purpose. Proverbs chapter 16, verse 9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. It's God. He knows our path. He knows what you're facing. He knows what's coming up in your life tomorrow. But as we trust him, he will direct us as we live out his purpose. Now, the two stories. The first one is this guy named Moses. Now, you've heard of Moses, many of you. For some of you, maybe for the very, very first time. In the book of Hebrews, the author summarizes Moses' life in these three verses. He says, by faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden for 3 months by his parents because they saw the child was beautiful, and they were not afraid of the king's edict. By faith, Moses, when he was grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to be mistreated with the people of God than to enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. Now we're talking about saying yes. But do you know that our yes sometimes means that we will say no to this? It's a two-sided coin, isn't it? When we say yes to this, we're saying no to this. Moses, rather than enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin, no. He considered the reproach of Christ greater wealth than the treasures of Egypt. Yes. Do you see it? The summary of Moses' life in Hebrews sounds so good, doesn't it? By faith, Moses. He was taken care of by his parents. He was beautiful. By faith, Moses refused this. But listen, the reality is that for Moses, starting off, he was a real basket case. I worked on that one for a long time. I saved it. I thought of it all myself. Thank you. Thank you. A real basket case. If there was ever a person who would have selected his own path, it was Moses. We're going to see that in just a moment. If there was ever a person who would go back to that point A, point B thing we talked about and go, no, this is the way it's going to go for me, it would be Moses. And we're going to see that. He actually tried to do that. He tried to go, no, God, this is the way it's going to go. This was the molded saying to the molder, you made a mistake. You chose the wrong person. No, I'm not going to do that. Let's take a look. Moses in Exodus 3, he has this incredible experience with God. It's called a theophany, or this visible manifestation of God. And it's in the form of a burning bush. But something happened. The bush didn't burn. It wasn't consumed, right? Now, if you experience that, if you're out hiking, piano starts on fire, but it still stays. We go like, I'm ready to listen, right? Like, I'm going to listen. If you're out hiking and a bush burns and it's not consumed, we're listening. And this is exactly what happened. And so God speaks to Moses out of the bush because he has Moses' attention. Then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people who are in Egypt and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. I know their suffering. Remember our two truths? God knows my path and God directs my path. I know their suffering. But I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of that land to a good and broad land, a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. And now behold, the cry of the people of Israel has come to me, and I've also seen the oppression with which the Egyptians oppressed them. Now just think about what's going on. Now Moses was a normal guy. Sometimes we go like, these guys only spoke God speak, right? Like, they only refer, oh, God, holy, blah, blah, blah. He was just a normal guy. I mean, he was a friend of God, right? They talked to each other, friend to friend. So you can just imagine when God is saying to Moses, I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians. That Moses is thinking, yes, God is going to step in. God is going to come down. God is going to do what we've been waiting for. Maybe that's what you've been thinking too. I've thought, God, why don't you just step in, clean up this mess, right? Take us home. I've come down. And so you know that Moses' response is probably something like this. Yay, go God. And I'm just going to watch, right? Boy, they're going to get what they deserve. Can't wait to see how God does this. I've come down. But Moses is missing something. God says, I've come down. And I'm going to use you. Because here it is in verse number 10. Exodus chapter 3. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Now, you know Moses thinking God just head faked him. Well, God, you said right there, you've come down to deliver them. Now you're telling me that you're going to use me, you're sending me? These are your people. You said you were going to do it. Here's God saying to Moses, I have a plan for your life. I have a purpose for your life. And all of a sudden, Moses is going like, this don't sound so good. All of a sudden, like Moses wants to rewrite this part of his journey. It's like we sometimes do. God, I don't want this in my life. God, I don't understand how you can use me for this. We try to rewrite our stories, and so does Moses. And so he has this question. He goes like, who am I? Now, this is the clay talking to the potter. This is the molded talking to the molder, saying like, God, who am I? Like, God, don't you remember? Did you forget? God, you have something mixed up here. You made a mistake asking me to do something you know I cannot do. And God's response is precisely, and that's why I chose you. Because you can't do it. And some of us are there right now, like, God, you put me in this place, you put me in a workplace that you know I can't do it. God's going, you're right. You can't. But it's not you, it's me. We'll see that. My glory will be revealed through you as you live out your purpose in life. There's this wrong thinking that's going around out there, and maybe you've seen it, I've seen it. Kind of goes like this. Well, God said he would never give me more than I can handle. That's bad theology right there. That's not even in the Bible, by the way. Actually, God will give you more, and he will give me more than we can handle. Because it's not about you and me. It's about what God does through us and through our weakness to reveal his glory. Someone said years ago, it's not your ability, but your availability. I'll say it this way. It's not your nay, but your yay. It's your yes. It's all of us standing in that position saying, okay, yes, God. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. I certainly don't have the ability. I'm not sure even if I can think correctly about it, but I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to depend upon you. For some of you, I know that your path is painful right now. You're walking a journey in life. It could be physical, it could be relational, it could be pressures at work, it could be all kinds of things. And I would just tell you that my pastor's heart says, like, if I could remove that from you by waving, I would do that. I would want to do that. But what I also know, that if I could do that, it would take you out of the plan and purpose that God wants to reveal himself through you. It's not your yay, it's your yay, it's your yes. God was looking for Moses' yes, but he continues with excuses. They won't believe me. God, who am I? They're not going to believe me anyway. God used powerful signs to confirm his call. Like signs that God did in your life, you would go like, oh, I'm never turning back. But Moses continued telling God that he had this disability, right? Now I can't speak. And of course, God, since that, you're calling me to go talk to this dude, I can't speak, so that eliminates me from consideration. Right, God? No, Moses, it doesn't. It actually makes the story more powerful. It's as if Moses is reminding God of his creation. Don't you remember you created me this way? God reminded Moses he alone would teach and speak through Moses. Moses, say yes. Just say yes and watch what happens. And if you go to Exodus and begin with chapter 3 and begin to read through, you see time and time again what happened when Moses said yes. God provided for him. Where Moses, felt like he was inadequate, brought Aaron along. God directed his steps. Exodus 4. 18 and 19. God was with him when the people of Israel began to turn against him. God faithfully provided miracle after miracle after miracle. God could have acted on his own behalf. God could have just said it and it would have happened, but he chose to use Moses. He could have even healed his speech, but he didn't. He chooses to use you and me, the people that we are, to carry out his purpose in life. It's whose we are. You're not defined by your ability. That is what you can do. But your capability, what God can do through you, as you say yes. It's not your ability. Stop looking at that. It's your capability. As you yield your life to Christ, as you yield your life to God, what he will do through you. So here's principle number 1. The pathway to purpose begins by saying yes. Yes, for some of us, is that first step into a relationship with him. It's why we celebrate over 20 people taking that first step over the last couple weeks. It's yes to share your story with others. It might be your neighbor. It might be your workmate. It's yes to living out the gospel story wherever you go. It's yes to take that next step in what God calls you. It's yes to take that step that brings you closer into a relationship with him. Maybe your next step is like Logan's next step.
Hi, my name is Logan Hammond. Tom asked me to share a story that I shared with him a few weeks back, and this story really starts in the fall. I was sitting in church one Sunday morning, and Tom was talking about people who read their Bible daily, and it was really low. It was like 5 or 10%. As I'm sitting there thinking about that, and think about areas of my life that I'm not completely satisfied with, just like all of us. Maybe I'm not satisfied at work, maybe I'm not satisfied in some relationships I have, and I'm not in the 5 or 10% range in those. And I thought, man, here's something I could do and be in the 5% range instantly. I just got to open this book. So I really, for whatever reason, I felt convicted, woke up next morning, started in Genesis, read 2 or 3 pages. Next day, same thing, and just kept going. And I just finished the Old Testament. I'm still reading it every day. But as this happened, my life started to change. Things in my life started to change. How I viewed relationships, convictions, trying to prioritize what's important to me, what's not. All that clarity has happened related to this Bible. Some people see me like, hey man, you look changed. Something's different about you. What are you doing differently? I'm reading my Bible. It's been a really interesting journey. I've had this book in my house for like 20 years. I've read this Bible a little bit here and there. I've never read the whole thing. And just taking that one step, that next step, making it a yes for me, has changed so much. And it's just hard to describe all the positives. And I thought of all the excuses that I had before, all the years prior. I always had an excuse why I didn't do it. I don't have a study plan. I wasn't studying. I wasn't sure. I was, am I just reading it and then looking for something magical? When I opened this and started reading, I had no expectations. I wasn't looking for a Bible study. I wasn't looking for a revelation. I just started reading the words. And as time went on, I started to really, really look forward to this. And it's something I do. We go on vacation. This Bible's gone everywhere with me. It's been all over the state. It's been in multiple states. It's been on airplanes. I could read the online one, but I wanted to read this Bible right here because it's been here for 20 years and it's been looking at me and I've been looking at it. So that's my story.
That's my story. See, it's just the next step is saying yes. Maybe for some of you, your next step is yes to water baptism. You're like, I'm afraid they're going to lose me. They'll drown me. But it's never happened before. I mean, the drowning part, okay? Maybe that's your next step, and Pastor Mario will lead us in how to respond to that. It's happening next Sunday. It's a great celebration. So here's my question. Where is God asking you for a yes? Where's God asking for a yes from you? Now we're going to wrap up in just a few moments. I think they moved the clock forward on me, but I'll move quickly here to the next part. Okay. Principle number 2, your failure is not your future. Something we got to get a hold of, you guys. Anyone here not ever make a mistake? We all have. Your failure is not your future. The enemy who always attempts to thwart God's purposes wants us to live in our failure rather than live out our future. If he can keep you in your failure, keep reminding you how bad you are, then he takes you away from your future, which is God's purpose being lived out through you. Your failure is not your future. These are the chapters of your life, the part of your pathway that you might try to hide or you're going to leave out. If there are failed relationships, a failed career, a failure in life, or a big mistake that we made. But God uses these things as we yield to him. Remember the 2 declarations you probably do. God knows my path. God directs my path. Let me give you a third one real quick as we wrap up. God redeems my path. The story of Peter helps us understand this. And last week, Pastor Mario spoke a powerful message. If you missed it, I just encourage you to go back to next week and just listen. I want to introduce another part of that story that I've been giving some thought to. So each of the gospel story carries the account of Jesus telling Peter he'll deny him. Of course, Peter's going, no, never me, never me. Of course, he did. And when he did, Peter responded in probably the way that you and I would do. He wept. But Luke's gospel, that's one gospel, shares some interesting words as Jesus was telling Peter about his denial. Before he shares with Peter that before the rooster crows tomorrow morning, you'll deny me 3 times, that you even know me. Jesus says this in Luke chapter 22. But I have prayed for you that your faith may not fail. But then he says this, so I underlined it in my Bible. And when you have turned again, strengthen your brothers. Man, I stopped on that. Like, what's Jesus saying here? Like, when you turn again, strengthen your brothers? Peter slipped out the pathway with his denial. We know that Jesus restored him. But here's Jesus saying to Peter, look, you're going to fail, but you're going to return. He redeems my path. You're going to make a mistake, but you're going to come back. When you have turned again, or when you return, strengthen your brothers. God will use that part of your story and my story. Let me use that experience as a power story to strengthen, encourage one another. Peter, others can and will learn from your failure. Don't stay there. Let me use your story. Peter, your failure is not your future. You were made for a purpose. And that's what he says to each and every one of us. Yeah, we may all make mistakes, but that's not your future. Your future is walking out and living out your purpose for him. I wonder what was going through Peter's head when he denied Jesus. When he remembered those words, I know you said I'd turn it, but how in the world is that going to happen? How am I going to find my way back? How is it going to take place? Then John 21 details Peter's actions when he saw Jesus on the beach. And unlike the others who stayed in the boat, right, Peter jumped into the water to see Jesus. Peter stepped toward the Savior, the only one who could redeem his path. The enemy wants to keep us in our failure. Jesus says, come on to me. Take a step towards me. Just say yes. I knew you would trip up, but step towards me. So, finally, here's just the action step I want us to think about. I'm going to lead us in prayer. God, today, I am saying yes to blank. God, today, I say yes. And for some of us, maybe that yes is our first step into a relationship with him. And that's your yes. For some of us, we're going to step out of our failure and into our future by saying yes, whatever that might look like. We've all been there. We've all had to do that. Maybe for some of you, you're going to put in that line a name of somebody that you have just felt this nudging to, but you've been afraid to share your gospel story. And Jesus saying, look, I mean, like God could reveal himself like he did to Moses. He could do that. Light their desk on fire, God. I mean, do something, right? But God's calling you because he wants to live out his purpose through you. So how will you fill that line? Today I say, yes, God. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to step towards you. I'm going to lead us in prayer. And I'm going to just invite us in this moment to solidify the yes. To go, yes, God. And then I need your help. I need your help. I need your spirit. But as I say yes, God, I know that you will fulfill your purpose. So, Father, we come to you today, people who are just human. We've all made our share of mistakes in life. We've all said, God, could you just do it on your own? But we also know, God, you've chosen us to live out the purpose that you've called each and every one of us to. And that's to share what you're doing. That people would be set free from their sin and called into a brand new life. You call us to make disciples. And so this morning, I would pray that you would speak to us throughout all of Gateway, online, in person, about our next yes. And we say yes, God. And then we look to you. We step towards you. We depend upon you, God, as we live out your purpose in this life. In Jesus' name, amen.